In this video, we're going to be looking at numbers, and in this part, we're going to base it on the following in terms of the scale. In this part, we're going to look at two scales that actually addresses numbers. One particular scale is called the small number scale, and the other part here is the large scale. And these two are going to be important when it comes to addressing this number system on a number line that is shown right here. So let's dive into this. In here, for our small number, we need to address first this particular number line based on the scaling system, and this particular grid will be helpful enough for we to equally position numbers, and then we're going to classify them as small numbers and large numbers. And what does that mean when it comes to looking at it on a number line? First is we're going to start with the center, which is around here, to be equal to 0, and from there we can go, let's say, 5 spaces or 5 steps to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this will be our first integer, which is going to the left, -1. And on the other hand, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this here will be labeled +1. And we can go on and on, 5 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will be our +2. And as we move further down to the right, we are going to bigger numbers, which in this case is going to be expressed as +infinity. And while on the other hand, we are actually going to the left, and once we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this will be our -2 position. And the further we go down to the left, we are going to bigger negative numbers, and this is expressed as -infinity. Now you hear where I said, or what I said in terms of bigger here, positive number, and bigger negative numbers. This here addresses large numbers, where we start from 1 and we move all the way to the right, and on the other hand, we start from -1 and we move further down to the left. And this is an indication that we are addressing larger numbers. We have to change the color here, so we're going to change it to orange, and for this here we're going to address it as orange. So that is something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is concerning small numbers. Now, before we address small numbers, we want to address large numbers in terms of words. And in here we can just say, in here we are looking at numbers that are greater than 1 and numbers that are less than -1. That is for large numbers, and we're going to look at examples of this and how this here is going to be important when we are dealing with standard notation versus scientific notation on our next video. Next here, for small numbers, we can now see where they're positioned looking at this number line. Indeed, they are positioned either from 0 or between 0 and +1, and 0 and -1. So in here we have these to be expressed as small numbers, which is within this particular region, and we are going to state it as that are numbers between -1 and +1. Now, one huge characteristics here for small number is that in this region, as you look at it from this 0 mark to our +1 as we move further down to the left, we are going to smaller numbers, and the same thing is applicable when you're looking at from -1 to 0. In here we are going to the right, which is you're getting close to smaller numbers, and we can see this in standard form and scientific notation, and we're going to talk about that in future videos. So I hope you found this really informative in terms of how small numbers are positioned on a number line and how large numbers are addressed on a number line, and how for small numbers, as we move from -1 to 0, we are getting to smaller numbers alongside +1 to 0. We also have the same thing but in the other way, where for larger numbers we are going from +1 to +infinity for bigger, larger, positive numbers, while on the other hand, moving from -1 to -infinity, we are going towards larger negative numbers. And on our next video, we're going to show how this looks like when we are going to be placing them in terms of the standard and scientific notations. So hit the comment down below, let me hear your thoughts about this. Couple of great examples to think about when it comes to this, as it is shown here. As long as you have numbers that are 1 and above, you know that they are large number. Likewise, -1 and larger values of negative values, alongside on the other hand where we have fractions, proper fractions. Proper fractions are a great example, either positive proper fractions or negative proper fractions that are here. Proper fractions. There we go. So see you on the next one. Stay smart as always and believe in yourselves.